It's been roughly 8 years since Disney dumped Gareth Edwards during the filming of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, but now, with the creator, Gareth Edwards is finally going to get his chance to put his stamp on big-budget, blockbuster Hollywood features in his own way. And it's pretty impressive. Let's talk about it. Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. After Rogue One and Godzilla, Gareth Edwards wants to revolutionize how studio films get made with the creator. When Edwards directed his first film, the 2010 indie Monsters, it could scarcely have been more of a do-it-yourself endeavor. He had less than $500,000 to tell an intimate story between two Americans contending with giant aliens rampaging through Mexico. So his crew consisted of his actors, a sound tech, a line producer, a translator, and a driver. Edwards operated the camera, grabbing footage guerrilla style whenever they came upon a compelling location while traveling through Central America. The young director created all 250 visual effects shots for the film himself, alone in his flat. 13 years later, Gareth Edwards' newest film, coming to theaters this Friday, September 29th, The Creator, is in so many ways the opposite of Monsters. The budget is $80 million, and 20th Century Studios is distributing it worldwide. And yet, if you stumbled onto the set of The Creator, chances are it would have looked like another scrappy do-it-yourself indie. Just the actors, an assistant director, a boom operator for sound, a lighting technician, and Edwards, once again, manning the camera. There was an army of people, but they had to be completely out of sight, Edwards says. If you stood where the actors were and you looked around, you shouldn't see the crew at all. The Creator cost a fraction of nearly every other giant studio film like it this year, several of which ballooned to $300 million and beyond after directing two equally massive studio tentpoles with far greater budgets following Monsters, 2014's Godzilla and 2016's Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Edwards became convinced that there had to be a better, leaner way to make studio movies on a blockbuster scale. And one of the things for Edwards is the intimacy of storytelling. Like he said, clearing the set, and I want you to take a look at this shot here. That's Gareth Edwards holding a very small Hollywood camera rig. And no, it's not a $100,000 Arri Alexa, or any Arri for that matter, or even a Red. It's actually this. It's the Sony FX3, Sony's most entry-level professional cinema camera. And it runs under $4,000, not to lease it for a week, but to buy it outright. I realize a lot of folks watching still think $4,000 for a camera is a lot of money. You're right, especially if you're just your Joe average consumer. But when it comes to Hollywood productions, there's nothing out there that costs $4,000. Most cameras are far more expensive, but Gareth Edwards said for even an $80 million production budget with a major studio and a major distributor, nah, we're going to keep things simple and do it my way. And perhaps some of this may have been the reason that he left Rogue One. Greg Fraser was the cinematographer during Rogue One, a Star Wars story that worked with Gareth Edwards, and he's working with him again on The Creator. Throughout Rogue One, we were always talking about his, Gareth Edwards' dream project, says Fraser. Basically, his perfect world would be him, a couple of actors, and that's it. By contrast, Edwards describes studio filmmaking as an unstoppable machine, relentlessly driving towards a release date. You have to work at the pace that the machine is working at, and there are times where you wish you could just stop everything, take a moment to figure something out, and you can't, he grimaces. It's hard to talk about this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm not grateful for getting the opportunity. And that opportunity was, Rogue One. But before Rogue One, of course, there was Godzilla 2014. Less than a year after Monsters debuted at South by Southwest in 2010, Edwards landed the dream gig to direct Godzilla. But the adjustment proved about as daunting as facing down a 350-foot fire-breathing kaiju. On his first day on set, he says, "I walked past row after row after row of trucks just to get to the main area. We were shooting in a convention center, and I sort of joked, what are the chances that the day we shoot at the convention center is the day they're having a truck convention? I just couldn't believe that we needed 100 trucks to shoot these scenes." But when it came to Rogue One itself, Edward once again downplays the changes as, quote, little silly things. But he is steadfast about their end goal. "We were just trying to figure out, how can you do this better? The way you make a film is as important as its screenplay. I would take full control over the process and a mediocre screenplay over a really good screenplay and zero control over the process." And that reference to losing control over the process is as close to Edward gets to addressing multiple reports that Rogue One was effectively taken away from him by Lucasfilm for extensive reshoots overseen by Tony Gilroy, who went on to create Andor for Disney+. And when questioned, Gareth Edwards grimaces yet again. "Look, the only thing I can say, I was incredibly lucky. I got to make a Star Wars film. I won the lottery in that sense." The idea of someone as privileged as me in any way implying that it was anything other than the amazing experience that it was to some extent, like, I don't have any empathy for that person, and I don't want to be that person either. Hell of a classy guy, and I can understand the sentiment. And he was indeed very grateful to be part of the Star Wars experience and make a Star Wars film. And to his own end, a film that most of the Disney Star Wars fans and Star Wars fans in general consider to be probably the best thing that Disney has done, if that can be said. But going back to the creator, this is where things get really interesting with Edwards' take and vision of how to do big-budget filmmaking. To save money, he eschewed building sets in favor of shooting on location and using visual effects to transform the landscape into a vast sci-fi environment. None of the actors playing robots or AI simulants, androids, who in the finished film have a hollow mechanized neck created through visual effects, were overly burdened by the trappings of a digital character. Industrial Lights and Magic, or ILM, made it work, Gareth Edwards says. I think they were surprised at how efficient it was as well. Everyone sort of signed up, all holding hands, jumping off this cliff together. The most exciting thing, Edwards says, is that you really don't need loads of money to make a film that looks like you had a lot of money. I'm actually looking forward to see what Gareth Edwards has put together with The Creator, due out in theaters this weekend on Friday, September 29th. I really want to see what this man did with $80 million to rival some $300 million monsters that have been out there. Look at all the stuff from Marvel recently. Look at a lot of things from Star Wars over the years as we tore into what the real budgets for some of those things were. Rogue One itself cost roughly $300 million when it was all said and done, and that was before they spent a dime marketing the thing. If The Creator indeed came in on time and on budget at $80 million, or perhaps even a little bit less, and they only spent maybe another $70 million or so with global marketing, this movie's got $150 million all-in cost. That means the threshold for this movie to break even is going to be around $300 million at the global box office, which for a movie of this scope is not terribly out of the question. This film isn't going to have the brand recognition of a Star Wars, Marvel, or even Godzilla. It's going to have to rely on good word of mouth to make it over the hump, and probably have a decent little run after it leaves the theater with PVOD and third-party licensing. We'll see how that goes. But for now, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you like this kind of guy, this Gareth Edwards, looking to actually find cost efficiencies in films, doing things differently in his own way, shaking things up, breaking the mold, as it were, and trying something new? It's probably something that more big Hollywood studios should get back to. They've gotten too formulaic and too corporatized, and we wind up getting the same looking junk over and over again. If Gareth Edwards can deliver a solid sci-fi, visually appealing action monster for 1/3 or even 1/4 the cost of some of these big things coming out of, say, Disney right now, that would be something truly spectacular. Hit that like and subscribe. Maybe check out The Creator this weekend. Let me know if you will be. And until next time, take care.